going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This is episode 85. We are in Studio C, and we are both very, very tired right now.
Yes.
Just got done with an awesome workout. Actually, the first one together at the garage gym.
Right.
So the first one in a long time.
I think first one together since before COVID.
And the first one, first one for me, but second one for you today.
Yeah, second one today.
Yeah, so Justin and I had this brilliant idea to do a workout prior to recording because, like we mentioned before, he's getting his garage all set up back to like the old format where he's got a bunch of stuff in there for training purposes. We have like bench and some dumbbells, some adjustable dumbbells, a straight bar, an easy curl bar, a bench, a rack. Not a full rack, but a stand, I guess.
A stand.
And different bumper plates and stuff. So we got a brutal workout, and which was anticipated, and then we're just going to record after.
Yeah,
so
that's perfect.
We did. We trained arms, and typically, I'm pretty vocal about this, that I'm not a big fan of training arms directly, only because I feel like there's better bang for your buck opportunities, like doing arms with something else. Like, getting a lot of tricep from like heavy pressing movements, or getting a lot of biceps from like heavy rowing movements or whatever. But arms are like the best thing to train with someone. Like It's real fun. You get a good pump. So we didn't even have a set plan. We just kind of went in and did whatever. Yeah. And I think we started with like close grip bench press, just traditional close grip. We did like a 5x5. Then after that, we went on to, what was next?
Plyometric push-ups.
The plyo push-ups.
Those were awesome. I never even thought that I could do something like that.
Yeah, we had Justin in his yard has a little bit of a hill, like an incline, and we were, facing the incline and doing push-ups where it was a close grip push-up, and we pushed explosively back to where we were standing, and then we would fall down forward again, push up from the ground back to where we were standing, and did cluster sets of those. And then after that, we did some bench dips on the stairs, and then we went into tricep extensions with the cable pulley that we have rigged up. And then after some heavy extensions, we went into the flower song, Bring Sally Up, Bring Sally Down. I'm sure a lot of listeners are familiar with that. It's basically, it's kind of like a drinking game, but for weight room purposes, where the song says Bring Sally Up, and you bring the weight up for whatever movement you're doing, and then it says Bring Sally Down, and you bring it down. So we started with 45-pound bumper plates in our hands, which was hard to grip, and we were lying on our back in the driveway doing tricep extensions like skull crushers. So they would say Bring Sally Up, and we'd be locked out, and they say Bring Sally Down, and we would back, slightly behind our head in a skull crusher position with the bumper plate elevated on the ground. So there's no time on the ground. And then after that, we went on to biceps, and then a little bit of forearm with some fat grip work and some plate pinching work. And
yeah, that was intense. I've used the Bring Sally Up song a few different times. People have seen it in my videos doing sit-ups. We would do sit-ups at the station. I do them here sometimes whenever I was training here by myself and during COVID. And I often use the weight plates, and in between like the Bring Sally Up, Bring Sally Down, anytime they weren't saying up and down, we would do tricep extensions. But nothing like that hold. That hold at the skull crusher in the back, I think after doing the dips, my triceps, that was the best tricep workout I've ever had.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But then we finished up with what little energy remained. We did some direct bicep work, and then, like I said, some forearm work, and now here we are recording.
Yes. This is like the perfect end of a workout.
And you're kind of getting everything set up. Like we got the power rack coming to the garage in
3 weeks.
Yep. So that'll be, that obviously will open up a wide array of new things that we can do. And a lot of this, a lot of the stuff that we did today, you mentioned that like you never would have thought about that. And that was one of the things that you and I had a discussion about prior to recording, was how it's beneficial. And I think that this could be an analogy that can go into different areas, not just in a weight room setting, but it's cool to do things with other people just for a different change of perspective.
Right.
And I said that, kind of in my lifetime, I've been the leader of the workout almost every time I've trained. So when a group of guys gets together to train, it's always, okay, Charlie, what are we doing? And I said, it's always nice to sometimes, and I know that you've been much of the same with your group lately, and I think it's nice to sometimes take a back seat and let somebody else guide the workout, because every opportunity I get to do that, I kind of seize it, and I always have something to take away. No matter how experienced or inexperienced someone is, they always offer me something that I'm like, oh, that's cool. I never would have thought about that. Or I like, gripping the bar that way. I never would have used that grip if it wasn't for you showing me that. So I think it's cool to kind of branch off and get opportunities to train with other people, not just from like an energy perspective that we talked about on a previous recent episode, but also just the fact that you get different ideas from people.
Right. Absolutely. I really enjoy training with, I enjoy training with a specific, like when me and you trained all the time together, that was awesome. Or like when me and Trevor started training together all the time, that's awesome. But when you can sprinkle in a new person from time to time, or just change stuff up and just shoot from the hip and get after it, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy having the garage gym back open. And like I said, like you were saying with the power rack and stuff coming, it's going to be, I think, epic.
So now going forward, I guess, to the next topic, but chronologically we're going backward to your first workout. I feel like I'm getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's first talk about our short-term goals.
Yes.
So Justin and I...
What was that, about 2 months ago?
Yeah, just about 2 months ago. We had an episode that we recorded where we talked about wanting to set some short-term goals to show the importance of short-term goal setting and how to achieve them and how to go about working towards something. So I chose to be able to do a straddle split. And again, I've talked about this before. There was no particular reason for it. I just thought it'd always be cool to do a sideways split with my legs straight out to the side. At the time, I was someone who instructed the importance of mobility and flexibility, but didn't really live it to the highest degree myself. So I felt there was a little bit of hypocrisy there that I needed to take ownership of. So I decided to be able to do a straddle split. And Justin, your goal was to run a 5K, and we talked about like different times and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think originally we said, when I first set the goal, we said, what did we say, 43 minutes? And then when I started training for it, I realized that I wanted to do it with my daughter in the stroller, and that was a completely different aspect. So I kind of tweaked the time and said I'd like to do it in 45. If I could do, because every training event that we have done with her was an hour. Mm-hmm. I could push and I could get to an hour. I got to 50 minutes last Saturday, and I was like, okay, I think we're good. So we pushed it to 45 minutes. I said I'd be happy if I could do 45 minutes with the stroller and not having ran in almost 2 years.
Yeah.
A year and a half,
mm-hmm.
I think, since COVID. So signed up this morning. I procrastinated kind of and didn't sign up until the morning of, so I didn't get a cool t-shirt, but we signed up this morning and it was fun. It was really cool to be back at the starting line of a 5K. And I know, if for endurance athletes that are listening, they don't see 5Ks as like I do. But I couldn't walk, barely.
It was
walk.
like when they did the Spartan race. Like when I participated in that Spartan race before, the 5K version is called the sprint. It took me over an hour, and that was ironically titled the sprint,
right?
Where that's the short one.
Yeah, so it was fun, to sign up and then get back in line and to hear the start of the event and everybody clapping and cheering, and they had the big start-finish line set up. Second Soul puts on an amazing race. So it was a 3-lap race, and I had an old friend of mine from that used to work with me from work. She ran with me and the baby, and we come around the first corner, and all leading up to this, we had talked about, let's walk the first half mile. Turned the corner, and what did I do? Took off running.
Yep.
And we ran the first half mile, which was a terrible idea. So my shins were hurting, and so then I started doing some run walk evolutions and interval style running, and we ran 2 minutes, walked 5 minutes, ran 2 minutes, walked 5 minutes, and then when we hit the 2 mile mark, I switched it to run 5 minutes, walk 2 minutes. So it was a pretty good all-in-all race. It was a really nice course. I wish they would have shut the traffic down because there was no crossing guards and cops and stuff at the intersections, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But and it wasn't like it was on all back streets. It was on the main drag in town, so it was kind of interesting dealing with cars. But I come down and I thought, so my watch froze. I thought I was on really good time, and then it got to the point where I was like, wait a minute, there's no way I've only done a mile and a half. Like, I know it's been almost 40 minutes. I listened to a whole album almost. So, like, something's going on here. So I pulled my phone out of the stroller while I'm running. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, my God. We're really on track here. We're doing a good job. So, like, I kind of picked it up a little bit. Come down to the start-finish line, I can start to see it, right? And they have the big clock timer up.
Yep.
And it says 44:47 as I run across. So under 45 minutes.
Perfect. 13 seconds under.
Yep. So it felt good, and I'm already setting a goal for the next race. So,
awesome.
Give me one more training run, and I think next Saturday I'll be able to get a good idea. I'm thinking 30s.
Is this one okay? So without with your daughter?
No, with
okay.
With the stroller, with the baby, I'm going to try for 30s.
Oh, 30s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
thought for 39. Some reason I thought you said 30.
Yeah,
30.
I would love to be at 30. But yeah, so we'll get there.
Awesome.
But
so with my goal, I have it set for July 4th, which you did too, but your 5K was prior. You already hit that goal.
Right.
Now you're not doing one tomorrow, right?
There's none in the area tomorrow.
Okay.
So I was thinking about doing another one if Chester had its or any of the local towns had one. I'd do one again, but I think I'll take the day off tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a little sore, and I got a lot of grocery shopping to get done, but man, it did feel good to be running again.
So with mine being set for tomorrow, we will have to reconvene.
Yeah.
But I've already have an awesome talking point. I feel like something very valuable for me. I don't know if this is going to be valuable for other people, but it's really important for me as far as the short-term goal setting. When I first set this short-term goal, I wanted to do a straddle split, right?
Right.
And I made exceptional progress within the first probably 3 weeks. So we set it for a month, or 2 months, about 2 months ago. And I made exceptional progress for the first 3 weeks or so. And I was training, at school or before school and everything. And I would go and I would work out. And then I would devote probably about 10 to 15 minutes directly of some mobility work for my hips and some stretching and stuff. And I did that religiously. When school got out, about 3 weeks after that or so, my schedule got hellaciously busy. So a lot of days during the week, most days during the week, I'm working from 5 a.m. to about 8, 9, or 10 p.m. straight through, nonstop. I might have a half hour here or there, or maybe an hour break in between, but I'm eating while I'm training. I have a very short window to work out some days. So 5 a.m. to essentially 10 p.m. straight through. It's absolutely insane what it's like to work that, for me at least. I'm not really accustomed to it just now. But regardless, when that started, I completely lost sight of my goal. And I didn't train for a split at all, barely did any stretching. And now, tomorrow, my goal is to just hopefully overload my stretching all day long and hopefully send some neurological signals for my body to open up, and maybe I can get close, because I definitely have not been as diligent as I should have been. Not even close.
Right.
And that's just full transparency. And it's awesome because it made me recognize something, that it's kind of like everything that I don't want to say criticize, but it's like everything that you and I have been trying to fix in other people, and I fell victim to it. So we always say how, it's unfortunate when people are very highly motivated to do a particular goal. It's like New Year's resolutioners.
Right.
They come to the gym, they're highly motivated, they do it for a month or so, and then they completely taper off. And I did the same thing. I was highly motivated for my short-term goal, was posting pictures of me in my straddles and how much progress I was making, and then I stopped doing it completely. And it was like, okay, why did I do that? It's obviously not a work ethic thing. Like I'm working from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's not a question of my work ethic or my drive or anything like that. And I try to do I try to be introspective about it. Like, why did you not continue to work at this goal that you were so focused on for that short period of time? And the only thing that I could come up with is because it wasn't important to me.
Not even so that it's not important, but from just from a close friend's perspective, you tend to care more about the success of others around you.
And that's true.
So
I appreciate that you recognize that.
Well, I mean, I lived it, so I get it. And even when you were hyper focused on your success for your show, your last show, that was right in the middle of my huge transformation, and you never skipped a beat. You know what I mean? It was never. I never took a back burner, even though I should have.
But with that. Okay, I guess that's a good. I think that's a good comparison because even though I was doing a ton of client work and training tons of people and doing all these things like you specifically, I still didn't wane from what I had to do for my show.
Right.
But here I waned from it, and I think that the reason was because it wasn't important to me.
Okay, I can see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't really care if I did the split or not. The reason I set that goal is just to show the importance of what I wanted to do. Here's the irony is I did this whole undertaking because I wanted to show people, I wanted to teach people a lesson about short-term goal setting, and that's why I came up with this. The ironic part is that I myself was taught a lesson about short-term goal setting, and now I feel like it can more appropriately relate to people, especially clients and stuff that have these short-term goals. And I think that I need to come up with a way when people I train or colleagues or clients or whatever, I need to find a way, almost like a flow chart, like an audible flow chart that I talk to them and question them in such a way that we can go around and navigate to see if this is important to them. So if someone comes to me and they say, I want to do this, this is my goal, then I can, I have a series of questions or kind of pick their brain to find out if it's really going to be that important to them.
Right.
Because if it is, then we'll follow suit. But if not, it could turn into like me, where you have this high motivation to do something and then it wanes. And again, it's not that I'm just going to stop. I'm still going to work on some stretch and mobility tonight and maybe try it tomorrow. But it was just a really, really cool lesson for me to see oh, crap, this is not as easy as you think it is, because the motivation, like you always say, tends to go away.
Right. It waxes and wanes.
Yeah.
It comes and goes with the seasons, it seems like. The greatest thing about goals, in my opinion, is it doesn't really matter if you don't hit your target. You know what I mean? So say if I set a target for 45 minutes, my technical goal was 43 minutes. I didn't hit that goal, but it just gives me something to work for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll reassess, reevaluate, change the date that, okay, so now I failed for this one. So it's like success through failure. So, trial and error almost. You have to, as long as you learn from a failed or a missed target or a missed goal, then it's not a failure. It's just a learning opportunity.
Well, and plus, in more instances than not, you're going to be better off than where you started anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't work at it as diligently the second half of the time period, the allocated time period, as I did the first half. But I'm better than where I started.
And I guess full transparency on my goal, I came up with 43 minutes really thinking I was going to have to really work at it to get there. I gained a lot of weight, over COVID, and then having the baby, 4 months of having a newborn and not getting to go to the gym as much and not paying close enough attention to my diet. I put on a considerable amount of weight. So I knew that I was going to have to work. So obviously I undershot, where my baseline was, because I didn't do all that much work. I did a 5K on Saturdays the last 5 weeks. But other than that, I haven't done a ton of extra cardio. I have done some, but not exponentially higher.
Yeah.
So, I've learned now that I'm going to have to push myself harder and dig deeper to make a goal that's worth setting. achievable. You know, what I mean, like I'm proud of 44 minutes, like because it took me last time I started running 5Ks, it took me almost a year to get there.
Yeah,
but this time it was the first one. So
I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of delve into how the race actually went for you too, because like talk details about pacing and how difficult it was for you and some of the experiences and people you met and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So let's go to a commercial break, and then when we come back, maybe you can share some of that information with us.
Okay.
As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well.
And we're back from our commercial break. So prior to the break, Justin, I said that I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit about the actual race itself, because, you talked about different pacing and stuff like that, but I really want to know what it was like getting back to the foundation of running after spending so much time not doing extensive cardio and stuff. What was it like?
It was kind of difficult.
Were you nervous going in?
Oh, man. I texted like 4 different people last night and said I'm really nervous, and they didn't even know I was running today. So they were like, why? And I'm like, literally got the response from everybody. I was like, I have a 5K tomorrow and I haven't ran over almost a year, and I didn't prepare as much as I thought as I wanted to. The list of excuses. And they all pretty much unanimously said, you lost 226 pounds in a year. I think you can run 3 miles. Go. Shut up. Basically.
Yeah.
For lack of better words. And I was like, some of these people didn't even know me then. They just, from knowing my story and, getting to know me now, they're like, you can do just about anything to go. And that gave me a lot of confidence. And then, so pacing, like I said, my watch, I don't understand. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
It kept, every time I looked, it was like over halfway through the race until I realized it was staying auto pause. So I don't know if there's something wrong with the sensors in it. So it looks like there's a new watch in my future. But, so my main tool is to be able to look at my watch and see what the pace was and how my time has been, and, how much time has elapsed, and all of that wasn't functioning properly. So, so pacing was a little bit more difficult, but I kind of paced on pain, right?
Uh-huh.
So on my run intervals, I used that same soundtrack that I used all the whole time 2 years ago, and because it kind of tells you when to run, tells you when to walk, different tempo and beats, and on the runs I ran until my shins and my knees hurt. And I just held at that pace, like not back it down to where it doesn't hurt. I kept it right at the pain. And then when he'd say walk, I would back it down just enough to where it didn't hurt. And that was kind of the way I was pacing it for today. And I mean, I don't really suggest that, for longer distance or longer periods of time, but without having the watch to be able to look at and keep myself right at that 14-minute mile, right where I wanted to be. I couldn't, that was the only way I could do it. Because I knew I couldn't go any faster. Like, that was it. That was basically, for lack of a better words, I could have sprinted, maybe 50, 60 yards, but for a longer distance, that was as fast as I could go.
Did you meet anybody cool?
Yeah.
Usually when you do these like public events, you meet a lot of people that are cool that you kind of have take homes from and stuff.
Yeah, so we were parked waiting. After I had signed up, I was stretching and stuff, and a car pulled in with guys in it, and the 2 guys and a girl get out, and they're obvious runners, taller, lean, short running shorts with compression socks on and good quality running shoes, and like they have their pre-race ritual going on. And I was just stretching, and I just asked the guy, I just randomly asked him, I said, hey, do you know what this course is like? He's, no, I've never ran it before. And I was like, yeah, this is the inaugural, like their first race ever. So I didn't know if anybody had, asked or anything. And he's like, no, cool. Yeah, no, I don't know. We just come from Wellsburg. We ran one there, and I can't remember where all he said, but he said he had ran 2 last night and 3 this morning, and then was running this one with me, and then had 1 more tonight and 2 tomorrow.
Holy
and I'm like, this guy's crazy. So I was like, you're a little nuts, huh? And he's like, yeah, a little bit. He said, I want to say, and don't quote me, but he said he was going to run 195 Ks this year.
Wow.
Now, my number might be off, but I'm pretty sure he said 190, I think is what he said he was going to do. I was like, that's insane, man. Like, when do you find the time?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so whatever, in our conversation before the race, we started talking about this race that he holds in Barnesville. That's a pumpkin run, which is people in the 5K world, they like them. They run carrying pumpkins, basically. But he invited me down to come do that race. So I think I'm going to go do that one. But yeah, he was pretty cool.
Cool.
So, and then I met a lady out on the course. When we first started running, I was running with her, and I was kind of pacing off of her at first. And when she did her first walk interval, I had a little more in the tank. I don't know if it was the Goggins thing, the taking souls thing, but she slowed down and I didn't. So I passed her, and I didn't see her again until like the last, I don't know, less than half a mile. And once we got to that last half mile, she started catching up because I was walking. I was starting to dog. I was getting tired. I was getting sore, more or less. And so she caught up to me, and I was talking to her because they didn't have, like I said, it didn't have it really marked well. So we got on that last loop. It was a different loop. It wasn't the same as the first 2 laps. So I was like, in the middle of the intersection with nobody blocking the road, trying to figure out which way to go down this road. And I looked back, and she was still behind me. So I was like, I got to be right. And then she pointed. So whenever I turned, she turned. And we were talking for a second, and come to find out, she says, this would be the first 5K that I ran the majority of ever. I've ran quite a few, but this is the first one I've ever ran the majority of. I've lost 100 pounds, and I was like, that's awesome, congratulations. And I kind of told her just, briefly, that I lost a bunch of weight, and it took me almost 15 5Ks to run at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, wow, that's insane. So whatever, we went about our ways, and that was cool. So I didn't even catch her name, but she was nice. And then the last person I would say I met was, I didn't even get her name. Didn't have much more of a conversation than, basically, hi, how are you? But when I come across the finish line, my wife was cheering for me, and everybody was clapping and stuff. And I turned my phone, the tracker off on my phone, and as I did, this lady looks at me and she says, because of you, I'm going to run next year. I'm going to run this race next year. And I was like, that was like impactful to me, because I didn't realize that people were still watching me and still like using me as their motivator.
Well, especially when you have, your daughter,
Yeah,
who you're pushing. I feel like it shows not only dedication to yourself, but dedication to the family. And
right.
I know that one of the things that you were adamant on through early parenthood, because you're still in early parenthood,
Right.
and even the process before, your daughter was born, you talked about the importance or the vitality for you of keeping it in the forefront of your hierarchy, the physical fitness and health part of this,
Has to be.
saying like, when she is born, I want her to know what that's like.
Yeah.
Not that you want her to live in a gym necessarily, but you want her to be around the atmosphere of getting better, self-improvement, because I think that that's such a great analogy for everything else that can stem from it, the discipline and all that stuff. So I know that was one of your things that you had initially, and you've kind of proven that so far since she's been born.
Yeah, it's been such a so important, like the level of importance that I hold on making sure that she grows up in living a lifestyle. And like you said, I like the way you put it. I don't want her to grow up in a gym and to be a complete meathead. Her old man and Uncle Charlie can handle that.
Yeah.
But I want her to be the strongest little girl in her class every time. Like, I want her to be mentally strong, physically strong. I want her to have good athletic ability because, she's already going to be smart. Her mother's a genius. So, like, she's going to have that. But I want to be able to show her that you can be whatever it is you want to be. And all it takes is work.
And I think that you're a pretty good example of that because you've talked very openly and adamantly about both physical struggles, which everyone knows, but then you've also opened up really early on in our podcast history with some early episodes about like mental struggles too.
Yeah.
So I think that if there's anybody that you can listen to about establishing and creating, engendering mental toughness and creating physical toughness, it would be you, because you've come from a spot where you, in your own words, were mentally weak and physically weak.
Yeah.
So to tell someone that they can create that, I think that sometimes when you give advice to people, they lose sight of the proper context, because sometimes they'll just say, oh, well, that's easy for you to say that I need to be mentally tough and mentally strong because you're not going through what I go through. Right. Or you've always been in shape. Whereas I think for you, you can say, no, I do know what you're going through because I went through it.
Yeah. Well, kind of a completely off topic, but we were watching, I come home from work or the fire station from training on Thursday, and my wife and her mother were watching TV. More or less, they were playing on their phones, and the TV was on in the background. But one of them fat shows, them 600-pound life shows or whatever. Yep. I think it was My 600-Pound Life, or I can't remember. But this lady was really large, and my wife's mother had made a couple comments. I can't believe, I don't understand. I couldn't imagine. And this woman was about 200 pounds heavier than what I was at my heaviest. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't have to. And she was like, no. I was like, yeah, I was just as big as her. If I'd have got to her age, I'd have been probably bigger. So,
or even worse.
Or worse, yeah. So, like, I do know. I don't have to imagine. And I think with that, it's important for me to remember, like, because I haven't lost sight of where I was, but it's getting more comfortable being where I'm at. Because I've been at this size and, like, this ability. Like, I don't have, quote unquote, that disability where I can't do very much. There's not much I can't do anymore.
Do you think that's a hindrance to you?
Yes.
I wish, because you are comfortable now.
Yeah, I wish I could find, and I will find. Like, I will get back to, like, and I'm working on it now, that discomfort zone. Like, I like that not being comfortable.
Well, that's what forced you to begin the journey in the first place, was not being able to do things.
Yeah.
Now you've gotten to the point where there's very minimal restrictions as far as what you can do. Like, you may not be able to do, like, take a 5K, for example.
Right.
You never would have been able to do that when you first started, but now you can do them. You may not be able to do them as well as you have hoped or as your destination goals or wherever, but you can still do them. So there's comfort there. And I feel like when people get comfortable, and this is not a Justin problem. This is an everybody problem. This is a Charlie problem. This is everything. Is once you get comfortable with where you're at, that kind of breeds complacency, and then you don't have a need, because most people change because they need to. Like, take health, for example. Most people go on a health journey or a health kick because they need to, where the doctor says, if you don't do this, you're going to die.
Right.
Very few people, I would assume, a much smaller portion of people, actually are proactive about things and address these concerns before they become concerns. Like, they're proactive, not reactive.
And that is exactly what I want to create with my daughter.
Yeah.
Is I want her to be proactive and have that on the forefront of her mind that, okay, this is important.
Don't put physical fitness at the end or at the top of the importance chart because you need it or you're going to die.
Right.
Put it at the top of importance so you don't get to that point.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's. I think that's the most important way I should look at it.
So, like, how do you go about then? And this is not just a question for you, although if you have an answer, by all means. But I feel like the rhetorical question here that I ask myself and listeners can ask themselves is, if you are comfortable with where you're at, how do you make yourself feel uncomfortable? Like, how do you set goals if you're complacent? Or is that something that you have to have inside of you? Like, are there people, like, I feel like there are people, and there are people that are a lot higher on this end the spectrum than me, but also probably more people that are a lot lower than me on this. Is I feel like I'm one of those people where I always am not satisfied, so there's always a little bit of discomfort. But there are people who become inherently comfortable in certain situations. Like, if you become comfortable, how do you find the motivation to get uncomfortable? You know,
it's I don't know yet.
Because probably if you knew, you wouldn't be comfortable.
I wouldn't be comfortable.
Yeah,
I would be. When we remodeled our bathroom and I had to take down my sticky notes off the mirror, I would have lost my absolute mind if I knew how. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because that accountability mirror, that was my discomfort zone. Because I didn't just put good stuff. I put more bad stuff on it than good. Like, I used that to say, hey, man, you're never there. Like, you're not getting to where you want to be by sitting here.
Well, and sometimes your friends, and maybe I'm guilty of this too, for you, and potentially you for me as well, sometimes your friends gas you up a little bit and remind you of all the good things, and sometimes you don't need reminded of the good things.
I don't want to hear the bad stuff.
You know, like saying, oh, Justin, you've done such a great job. Because when you get down on yourself, what's a friend at surface value? A friend is supposed to say, quote, supposed to say, no, Justin, don't feel bad. You lost over 200 pounds, right, dude. You're still doing good. Whereas maybe the friend should say, hey,
put that Twinkie down.
You've been plateauing for so long. How can you do this to yourself?
Yeah.
Because I feel, again, I'm one of those people that this has happened to me too, where people, I say, oh, I'm like, you asked me, when do you plan to compete? Oh, I don't know, man. I'm really busy, and I don't know if I can plan to compete anytime soon because I'm not nearly where I am or where I used to be. And then someone could say, oh, dude, you still look jacked. You still look good. You know, you're still muscular. That's okay, blah, blah, blah. Whereas somebody needs to say to me, maybe like, yeah, you're right. You look like crap comparatively, relatively. Yeah. You look like crap compared to where you used to be at. Why are you being lazy? Or why are you not focusing on yourself? You need to focus on yourself a little bit more. You need to do this, that. So maybe friends breed complacency too. Like, you don't want yes men in your life that tell you, oh, you're doing a great job. Like, obviously, I want people in my life that are going to fill me with positivity, but I'd also like people in my life to fill me with accountability as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you remember early on, whenever we were talking about my journey and like the accountability aspect of how I got to where I got, I always said that I rely heavily on these people, my wife, my best friend, my mom, you know, close coworkers at work. You know, if you see me eating a double cheeseburger and drinking a big tall glass of what appears to be soda, you should say, hey, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, no, stop.
Yep.
Even if you feel so inclined to go as far as saying, hey, fatty, that's not for you, that's fine. Because that's going to remind me that that's not for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, and I'm not blaming anybody because I'm not the type to say that kind of thing to somebody. But I was almost requiring people to be that person, to be rude to an extent, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm not blaming anybody, but that never really happens.
I find myself conflicted sometimes, too, because I always look at what is worth addressing and what's not.
Right.
So, like, I'll just create, like, a hypothetical situation. Let's say you and I are recording a podcast and we meet up and you got a Coke. I could convince myself, you know, it's just a Coke. Who cares? Like, I drink Coke as well sometimes. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Whatever. But then part of me says, you know, I feel obligated to tell Justin, what are you doing, man? Yeah. I thought you were on this health kick. Drinking Coke's not going to be optimal for you to get it done, and you always strive for optimal. But then you could also go back and forth and then say, well, you know, I don't really want to upset him. I hope, you know, I don't hurt his feelings if I were to say something or whatever. Not that this particular situation has happened. We're just throwing out a hypothetical, right, that you have that moral conflict where you want to be a good person. And it's like, you know, if you really want to be a good person, the reason you want to be a good person is to help people And sometimes if you want to help people, the most important thing is to hold them accountable.
And I really try to be that person for people. But like, I had a friend tell me that they wanted to join the military, and they kept asking me if I would help them lose weight and do these things, right? And in the middle of that, they kept saying, if I lose enough weight, if I score high enough on my ASVAB, if I get in, and I said, all right, so I'm not going to be able to help you unless you can do one thing for me and remove that son of a word from your vocabulary. And they were like, what are you talking about? I said, if, stop, when, replace it. Just say when instead of if.
Yep.
Because you control that. You're not 34 and a half years old and 80 pounds overweight, right? You're not on the cusp of not making the cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
You have 15 years if it takes that long. So you have plenty of time. It's when. If this is a goal that you want, it's when. It's not if.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I really do try to say the hard thing, like, because I've talked about that in the past, like saying the hard thing, doing the hard thing, making the hard decision when it comes to people that you care about. Like, you know, if you need to lose weight and I care about you and it gets to the point where it's affecting your health, I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
Because, by God, I want you to say it to me. You know what I mean? Because I would rather my feelings be hurt than to get back to 500 pounds.
Yep. And I've actually kind of went through a similar thing where one particular example sticks out in my mind where I've actually told someone no before for a contest prep. Where someone came to me, a friend from college, that said, I want you to get me ready for a show. And I said, absolutely not. And they were like completely taken back by that. And I said, here's the thing. You do this every year where you say you're going to do a show, and, you know, I've written you diets in the past, and then you've done it for a couple weeks, and then 2 weeks go by and you disappear, and then you say, oh, I need to get back in shape, and you post things. You post things once a month saying this is the week I get back in shape, and I said, absolutely not. I say, will not help you because I know how you are, and you're going to flake out, and it's going to be a waste of my time. Your money is less valuable than my time, so I'm not going to waste my time taking your money when I know that you're not going to be able to do this.
Right.
And he underwent almost like a little bit of a probation period where I had to make sure that he was committed, and sure enough, he was committed. Now we're a couple weeks out, and he's getting ready to do the show, and he looks amazing.
That's awesome.
You know, so like it
works.
But I had to tell him, no, I'm not going to waste my time or your money doing, you know, these futile attempts at what we call dieting or contest prep, unless you can prove to me first that you are 100% in.
Right.
And he did that and has reaped the rewards of that.
That's what's up.
All right, man. So I think that kind of concludes today's episode. Are you and I going to record here again and maybe get another Saturday workout next week?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, so with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This is episode 85. We appreciate you guys listening, and we hope to hear back from you next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge and